Are you considering buying or selling a home? Today we're talking about listing price versus selling price and how that affects your pocketbook. Hi, I'm Laura Clute with Ozark Gateway Realty, and I work with lakefront sellers who are animal owners in the Cherokee Village area. So sellers have a listing price, and their goals are to sell it at the best price so they can get the most money in the quickest time and the least inconvenience to them. So how do we do that? First of all, we need to take those three things and figure out which one's your priority. Do you want to sell the fastest? Because most likely you're going to have to negotiate on the other areas. Do you want to sell with the best price? Because if you want the best price, you might have to have your home on the market longer, or you have made more showings so that it would be more inconvenient to you. Or if you want it to be only shown at certain times of day and certain days of the week so it's not inconvenient to you, then you might not get as many showings, and so you're going to have less price, or less quickly will the property be sold. So first you have to prioritize those, and that helps us determine the listing price. You also need to consider what the market is doing right now. Is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a balanced market? Because if it's a seller market, then you're going to be able to put your house higher. If it's a buyer's market, then you're probably going to have to put it lower. And you're going to have to realize that it might be on the market longer or shorter, depending on which one of that it is. You also need to evaluate how much competition is there. Is there a lot of houses on the market? Is there only a couple that are like yours that someone be looking at when they go to have a showing at your house? You also need to consider the property condition. Is your house move-in ready? Does it need a few repairs? Does it need a lot of repairs? Does it have a renter in it? All of those are important to evaluate when you're considering what listing price to put your property at. Lots of sellers want to list their price low because they think it will get the most views right away and they'll get the house sold quickly. And in essence, that is the way that it usually goes. You know, a buyer does want a value, so they're willing to look at houses that are lower priced, but they also say when a house is lower priced, what is wrong with it? And it may cause them not to even go look at it because they're like, I don't want a fixer-upper, so they won't even go look at a lower priced house. So do keep that in mind when you want to price your house low for the market. Many sellers want to list their house high so that they can get the best value, and which again, like I said, will make your home be on the market longer because it'll take more buyers to see the home to see the value in it. Many times the reason a seller wants to list their house high is because they have a personal connection to it. They lived in it, their children grew up there, they have many memories. So they have a personal tie to the home, so it actually does have more of a value to them. But for some reason, they're moving, so therefore they need to consider that when they evaluate the property's value. Another reason to list a house high would be that you have negotiating room, because everybody, again, wants to get a value, and buyers like to negotiate. They like to know that they're not just given whatever you asked for. But I recommend against this. I recommend listing the property at the price that you're willing to take and not allow for room for negotiations. Everyone knows what price you'll take, but that doesn't mean that you won't negotiate a little bit more, but you're still putting it out there at the price that you're willing to take, and then you don't have to wonder if you're missing somebody on the market. Another thing to consider with listing price is the demand and timing of the seasons. In the winter and fall, the demand is going to be lower than the spring or the summer. And also interest rates are very important to consider. A buyer is going to be able to buy less home when the interest rates are up. Right now, interest rates are hovering just below 6% with the recent increases, and that is actually low for a long time period. It's a little bit high than it was last year when there was a lot of selling going on, so there is less home a buyer can buy right now. But you need to consider that when you're listing your home, because less buyers are going to get qualified for the price that you want to list your home at if you want to get a higher price. As well as the economy. Is there jobs in your area? Will buyers be able to come here and find work to do? Or is there professions that they can find ways to work and pay for their home once they're here? So all of those are considerations when deciding on a listing price versus a selling price. So instead of going low or high, the best place is to go realistic, right in the middle. Most buyers purchase at or below market values. So if you want to attract the most potential buyers, you need to price your house right the first time. You'll get more looks, more offers, and it'll be sold quicker. It's important to accentuate the features and amenities that affect your property's value so they can see that it's worth the price that you've listed it. So make sure your realtor evaluates the market at the right price the first time. So we've talked about listing price. Now we're going to talk about selling price and the difference between it and a listing price. So a selling price details with the buyer, but obviously the seller is still involved because they have to agree to the negotiations. To offer list price on a property may not necessarily get your offer accepted because there's many parts of an offer other than just the price. You may ask for a survey, inspection, home warranty, a termite policy. You may ask for the seller to pay your closing costs or other terms in the offer, like early occupancy. So all of those need to be evaluated when making an offer. And when you're in a multiple offer situation, you want to make your offer stand out from everyone else's and make sure your offer gets accepted. So how do you do this? So what should you offer if the list price isn't the place to start? Well, I recommend that you start with Zillow or Realtor.com just as a reference point. They don't take into consideration things like location, view. They may not realize all the repairs that are needed or smells like mold or cat pee or dog pee. So it is important to use them just as a reference point just to get started, but you really need to talk to your real estate agent to have them evaluate the market. Again, look at houses that have sold and are active on the market to see how much the property is worth. It is important to know how much supply there is. Is there a lot of houses for sale? Is there a lot of houses nearby, or is this neighborhood a special neighborhood? Is this house have everything that you wanted? Does it check all the boxes on your needs and want? What are you gonna put in the offer? Before you decide on the price, think of all the things you're gonna ask for. Are you gonna ask the seller to pay for a survey? Are you gonna ask for repairs, or are you gonna make them yourselves? Are you gonna ask for a termite policy? Are you gonna ask for early occupancy? Are you going to offer the seller delayed occupancy and let them stay in the home after you buy it? All of those are things to be considered when making the offer price because all of them take away, maybe give, to the actual value of your offer. Of course, it's important to consider how much you can actually afford, what is in your budget, and what you think the house is worth. But if you're getting a mortgage, it's also going to be up to the appraiser and not the mortgage lender because they don't decide, but what the appraiser says. And the appraisal should be objective and have fine lines about what it compares to other similar homes, but oftentimes appraisal is subjective and it can matter on which appraiser you get to appraise your property. An appraiser will look at many of the similar things that we've also mentioned on the MLS and other properties that have sold and are on the market for accurate comparison to give an accurate value. They're also going to look at the features and amenities that your property offers that maybe these other properties don't have, like a garage or a carport or a basement. It's going to look at the age, the square footage of the homes. It's possible the property could be over-improved or under-improved compared to the other houses in the neighborhood, and of course they will consider that too. So the appraiser does decide the value that the mortgage company is willing to lend on, and sometimes that can come in too low. So you got your appraisal back, but it came in too low. That's a problem. You're going to have to get your appraisal up, or get the seller to agree, or pay for it out of pocket. So a lender will not close on a loan for a value that's not at or above the offering price. So you have to either renegotiate with the seller and get them to agree to accept the appraisal price and come down. You can come up with a difference out of your pocket and just pay for it more and have it cost you more, or you can get a new appraisal and see if that one comes in higher, and obviously if that one doesn't, then there's still a problem. But even if that second one doesn't come in, or the seller won't negotiate, or you don't have money to pay out of it, you still have the opportunity to get out of the contract and terminate if the appraisal is not enough. But it's really not in the seller's best consideration to do this, to not agree to a negotiation, because more than likely that's going to become apparent to other buyers that it appraised for lower than what they're listing it. So it's really in everybody's best interest to move forward and close on the property, even if the appraisal is low. So what if you're buying cash? Well, that's great. You can pay whatever you want and you don't have to worry about what the appraisal says. It's just whatever you think the property is worth and the seller is willing to agree to. Keep in mind that a property has many other values other than listing price versus selling price. There's also values to the lender, as we mentioned above in the appraisal. The tax assessor obviously has to get their taxes. The insurance provider wants to make sure that they have it covered. And then of course to the buyer and seller. Today we talked about listing price versus selling price and what those values mean to a buyer and seller and how they affect your bottom line or your pocketbook. We do have a download available in the description, 7 Mistakes a First Time Seller Makes. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I hope you found this video valuable.